feeling good about yourself, feeling good about being at home. Cognitive ability. How about having, with 35 years experience, having to pull out the manual on a sound level meter to calibrate it properly, that you've done for years. Stress. Sleep disorder. Interruption. Yeah, okay, you can wake up at night, but when you never can go to sleep, that's bad. And the nausea, the headaches, the vertigo, yeah. You guys have done excellent. You could have pushed me over a feather when I heard that you were considering 35 dBA. Absolutely. And you also ended up doing the setback. Sound level correlates to setback. The higher the sound level, the more the setback. And indoor 30 dBA with the hoop. That is so you protect everyone. Everyone deserves sleep. By having 35 outdoors, the structure of the house will provide some protection. And will bring the level down from 35. The advantage, 35 is called by ANSI as marginally compatible. We're not going to protect everyone. We're going to get the majority of them. 30 is fully compatible. We'll protect everyone, even the ones that are most needy, children and all that. But you did very well. I compliment you. I would end up saying that you have to be very careful about these low frequencies getting into the nauseogenic frequencies. As these turbines get larger and larger, this is where the serious problems are going to be occurring. So I conclude, there is no G in the computer model. There is no wind masking. That's a contaminant. Predictions are unreliable, especially beyond 1,000 meters. And all measurements need to be attended. It's just lazy to go out there with a meter, set it up, and walk away. And think that you're assuring quality measurements by saying, oh, I've got a thumb drive that's going to capture wave files, or I've got a wind speed monitor that'll advise me when I have too much wind. No. You go out there and you measure when you hear the noise source and all other sources are at a minimum. I mean, it is, yeah, it's pretty lousy to get up from a hotel at 11 o'clock at night and go out and stand there at 1 o'clock in the morning, the only person there, and do measurements between 1 and 4. But if you want to do your job right, that's what you do. And it's hard. It's hard. And I want to thank you very, very much. I think I am so impressed with the board's decision in this direction. I've been working at this almost 6 years all across the country, and Vermont was the last state that I thought would be the first. But you've got it. You're superior to Maine because Maine was just a feeble compromise at 42. It should have been 35. As a matter of fact, Maine and Massachusetts, before they wrote their new noise standards, it used to be, Maine was 5 dB above ambient before they rewrote the rule in 87, 89. Massachusetts, they deal with the background sound level and a 10 dB increase. It's very, very fair way to do it because it deals with the way people respond. The thing is that we know now that the fact that the trigger point for the human response starts 30 to 35 dBA. And this is where we are today. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
I don't know what
Mr. Ambrose, you said using a ground attenuation factor in the modeling would cause a 2 to 4 decibel error. I just want to have you speak about that a little bit more. And does that result in an understatement or an overstatement of the modeled sound level?
I'm sorry.
Of the modeled sound level.
Ground absorption. I'm going to try to stay away from the science. It's a way of attenuating the signal, the sound level, with distance. A wind turbine, remember that slide where I had the Vermont was up the side. The noise source has to be near the ground for ground effect to occur. And they found these ratios where they can 30 times from the height of the noise source to the, you can get ground attenuation in that. 30 times from the receiver. So a wind turbine, you have no 30 times. It goes out tens of miles. The other thing is a wind turbine on a ridge is like an airplane. It's up in the air. When you're on the ground listening to the airplane fly over, is there any ground attenuation as the sound travels across the ground to get to you? No, because the sound's coming down from above. Well, the wind turbine, same thing. The sound is coming down from above. It doesn't. Ground attenuation is absorption of the ground for sound that hits it perpendicular on that. It's in wind turbines that they don't. They're too high. This is where the errors are coming in. They're playing with a model. I mean, there are so many parameters in it that can be manipulated. It's just sound power level, distance, hemispherical divergence, spherical, cylindrical. Use what is appropriate for the distance on that. Traffic noise is viewed as a cylindrical. These cars are always filling in the gaps, so it radiates as a cylinder, like this. Wind turbines on a ridge is individual point sources, but when you get far enough away where the points are closer together than the distance separating you, it transitions into a cylinder. The thing we need to understand is we're here because neighbors are complaining. We need to understand why they're complaining and not argue the science. The math. They're complaining because the sound level increased too much. It's our responsibility as acousticians to accurately predict it, to represent what they're receiving. We're not. We're depending on the science. Computers have been, I love computers. I've enjoyed it. I remember doing log additions with a calculator and I had to, forget it. I mean, it was a very tedious way of doing it where a computer, you can do it in an instant. So, the neighbors are complaining. We're dealing with a community response problem first. Now the problem is for the acousticians to do it right.
I have a follow-up to your question. And I noticed on the slide where you showed the ground attenuation measurements by both NOR 2000 and ISO.
Yeah.
The NOR 2000 actually
Follows much better.
it. So how, in that case, is it more a matter of which model as opposed to the fact that ground
Well,
attenuation?
here's the one.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
You need to let us finish asking the question.
Okay, I know, but I know where she's going. I'm trying to break it.
But wait
Okay.
anyway, because everybody else doesn't know where she's going.
Now I don't remember. Let me just say that, at least to my eyes, the NOR 2000 tracking looked more accurate, and that I was wondering how that reconciles with your saying that ground attenuation should not be used.
Well, that was the prediction model, how well they track. I wasn't dealing with ground attenuation.
Okay.
That was just,
It said ground attenuation on the slide.
okay, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Let me get back to it.
And then in general, while you're looking for that, I'd be interested in the source for some of the slides. For example, the one showing a nauseogenic zone, which I was not.
That's,
familiar
oh.
with.
That, here's the nauseogenic. That comes from ISO 1996, 2000. And a lot of this work had Dr. Paul Schomer, a recognized acoustic expert.
Dr. who?
Paul Schomer,
How do you spell Schomer?
Schomer. And he was a colleague of mine, Robert Rand. He's the one who did this slide. I pasted it in on what's to the left of it.
Perhaps while that's loading, maybe there's other questions.
How do I get this thing?
Tom, do you have follow-ups? Or? I have one, Dr. Ambrose, which is, there was a slide that you showed a microphone too close to the house.
Yes.
I couldn't get any sense of scale from your slide.
It's probably
So how close to the house was it?
within 15 feet.
Okay, and what would be an appropriate distance from the house, in your opinion?
Oh, the way I would do it would be 50 to 100 feet. I mean, it's just to be sure that I'm not getting some unique wavelength that's going to reflect off there and get me. When we get to low frequencies have very long wavelengths on that. But the key thing is measure too close to the house. It wasn't the prudent thing to do. And I do fault the measurement because the person wasn't trained fully on how to select that location. But the previous one, under the trees, that's a no-no.
Thank you.
Mr. Ambrose, in your work as an acoustician, have you conducted any attenuation studies of specific residences to measure how much a residence's facade reduces sound transmission level?
Well, no. But generally it's EPA says that with a sound attenuation through an open window is about 5 dB into a house. When I was at the Hobart house, that was built as a retirement dream house. Mr. Hobart was a whole oceanographic engineer. House was well insulated, premium windows, 6-inch thick walls. We measured 42 dBA outside. We measured 20 inside. When we looked at the low frequencies, which we measured as pascals, barometric pressure, we measured in the low frequencies 6 dB louder indoors on that. That's why the people end up saying, well, I get some relief when I go outdoors. Well, I can attest to that. I got some relief when I went outdoors. But when I come back in, it's like being inside a drum. All those low frequencies. And this house it had a great room. It was a combination dining area, living, foyer, and the kitchen area. It was all big, open. So it could support low frequency energy very easily. But a structure of a house, the volume is what determines how much low-frequency reinforcement occurs in the house. But it's one of those things that I thought I was coming down with a cold. I felt lousy, maybe the flu, quasi-nauseous. I'm sitting there at the table with my computer, looking at the measurements on the screen, and I go back to when I'm flying in an old Grumman Albatross seaplane in the nav seat, and you just got a little porthole window here, and you got instruments jumping up and down in front of you, and you're trying to look at the radar screen and the Loran, and it was the same feeling. Same feeling. I mean, I had that image, and I go, I hadn't had that image since I was in the Coast Guard when I was 20. So.
Can I ask him a follow-up question to that?
Yeah, sure.
Could you address the appropriateness of the type of test that is being used for inside and outside testing, where they put the speakers up and...
Oh.
Please.
Another faux measurement. It's a false. And the reason why is wind turbines are very rich in low frequency sound. We haven't got a noise source that can produce those low frequency sounds. Now, a wind turbine is coming down from above, the noise, it enters through the roof, which is a lighter weighted structure than the walls of a house. And it comes in and it floods the room from above on the low frequencies. Putting a speaker outside on a tripod elevated, it may sound good, but it doesn't do it. You need a bigger noise source, more speakers to spread it out, because the energy is coming as a giant wave, not as this little small hemispherical wave. And so these indoor to outdoor tests, I wouldn't do it with a speaker, because it's not, you can't get it up high enough. It's similar to what they ended up doing with at Logan Airport. They discovered this because they were trying to noise-proof houses, and a Centec went out with big boombox trucks, tripods, and lifts, and were trying to mimic aircraft, but they could not get the sound attenuation that they needed using their boomboxes. They used aircraft instead, the jet flyovers, because it's a big low-pressure wave that comes down.
That's okay, I'd rather go with it.
Yes, sure.
I just have one question to the board. Eddie Duncan, RSG. Are the presentations today going to be made available to the public for review?
If people want to provide them to us, put them on our website. Yeah.
Thank you.
What's that? And we have the transcript from the court reporter as well.
Yeah, that will be on our website.
I will provide
Yeah,
this
so
for you right now.
presenters could give us, send us a copy of your presentation. Other questions for this witness?
I'd like to make one comment regarding Mr. Ambrose's statement with regard to
Can you identify yourself?
Howard Quinn. With regard to the G issue, I believe Eddie and RSG are aware of, he can study this matter very carefully. In 2009, they wrote a paper on ground attenuation for wind turbines. They studied a number of them. I believe this is a paper which the board would want to have a look at, which clearly showed that it was possible to choose appropriate modeling parameters for wind turbines. If you did it right, you got numbers that were very close to what they actually got. A number of studies that Steve referenced in his slide, I took a look at that, were pre-2009, not all of them, but a significant number were pre-2009. And that was including some of the stuff I worked on back then. We were not, at that time, aware of what the actual, there was a problem with the way G was done prior to that, which RSG straightened out in their paper. So the board, I think, really needs to have a look at the paper. It answers the question very clearly.
Thank you.
I'd like to rebut on that. The one thing with the RSG is they have not revealed in their big mass DEP, mass CEC study, have not revealed the wind turbine sites. where they are.
Can I answer that since I was there? There were issues since I was at DEP when we picked the sites. The developers specifically requested for proprietary and confidentiality reasons the sites not be identified. Otherwise, we couldn't have got any sites at all. They wanted, there were legal issues in terms of compliance enforcement, which were occurring at the time, and they wanted to make sure that the data was not being used for compliance and enforcement legal issues. And they specifically requested.
So it's not peer reviewable.
No, but that was a legal issue. That was a legal issue, Steve. They couldn't have the sites be out there. It was going to get used in court.
But you got to have peer review. You can't keep.
Legal
I
stuff.
understand both of your positions, but we don't need to have it.
Yeah. Okay. I apologize to the board.
So we're going to take a 10-minute break and start back up at 11. And if the next presenter could get the overhead and everything hooked up so that when we get back we can start right in, that would be helpful. Thank you.